the real.
Yeah, I would actually go on Charlie Perry because I'm not sure if you're on both of them, right? Hold on, we're actually live now, Ed. So um,
Okay.
all right, let me just
Okay. Well, it's 2 minutes up. Let me go. Let me go share that on Facebook real fast.
okay, go ahead.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. We're live. We got my buddy Ed Bish on here. I'm trying to make sure that we share this post and it's a podcast, so I'm gonna put it public. And please, everyone, just share this podcast. Um, that way we get more and more comments here, and I appreciate it. This is between my co-host Paula Paula Santos Young and Ed Bish. They are tremendous people, strong advocates of the opioid epidemic that we have in this country. And So between OxyContin and fentanyl, we definitely have some great hosts, second to none when it comes to fighting this epidemic. So, all right, let's see here. Just want to make sure that we are a-okay, and that up. Let's see. So, yeah, we're gonna add Ed to the stage. What's up, Ed? How you doing?
Good. Good. Nice to talk to you again.
Oh, same here. I actually I made the post public, so you can definitely share it from my profile to yours. This is
Okay.
but take your time with that. Maybe I could maybe
Do
I
you
can
want to
share it.
just put in comments, tag at Ed Bish,
Yeah, I'll do that
and
for you. I'll
then
do it right now. All right. So, um, Ed, why don't we, while you're on and while I do this, what I want you to do is just give us a short story of what you been up to lately. You definitely have been visiting the Washington D.C. area, as I see, and I'm very proud of you. And I am so glad that I met you just a short few weeks ago. All right,
yeah.
it should
So
go Ed. Ed, go ahead, Ed.
so I'll give a quick recap for people who may not have seen our last show together. Um, to make a long story short, because this starts in 2001. So President's Day 2001. Uh, I was in work in downtown Philadelphia. I got a call from my daughter, and she said, "Dad, Eddie's not breathing and he's turning blue." And I
Mm,
told her, I said, "Call 911." I hopped in the cab. I was 2 miles from downtown, rushed home, got out of the cab, saw an ambulance in front of my house. And I said, "Thank you, God." I'm running up the street, but then I seen two guys were sitting in the ambulance. And they just looked at me and said, "Sorry, sir." And I said, "Don't tell me he's dead." And they said, "Sorry, sir."
man,
And I went in the house, and my brother was there, and he stopped me from going up the steps. And next thing I know, Eddie's friends were outside. Eddie was a high school senior. His high school friends started gathering outside, and I said, tell me, what did he do?" And they said, "An oxy." what the hell's an oxy?
Mm.
They said Oxycontin. It's like a strong Percocet. I said, no, my son's dead. And anyway, I went back in the house. I had my head down at the table and I was crying. And a police sergeant came in and he says, Oxycontin died. Kids are dying left and right from this shit. And I popped up. I was like, what? How did I never hear about this? I read the newspaper every day. I watch the news every night. I never even heard the word Oxycontin.
Mm.
And from that moment on, it actually, I think right there that minute, oh my God, I got to warn the kids. So that night, we actually started faxing high schools in Philadelphia, and that was 2001. And, this has been going on so long. That was President's Day, February of 2001. In August of 2001, Congress held the very first hearing on OxyContin deaths. 2001, I went to that hearing. And there it came out that there was a pill mill doctor, Flood in Philadelphia, who they just arrested. And Purdue Pharma knew exactly how many pills this guy was putting on the street because of IMS data, which is a pharma database.
Mm-hmm.
And they never said anything to the police or FDA or anybody. They just let him put out millions of pills. And, that's when I first started suspecting something was rotten with the spin Purdue Pharma put out. So I started a website and I started to hear from parents all over the country. And in 2003, we decided to protest Purdue Pharma at one of their lavish sales seminars. So we said, well, we got to call ourselves something. And we came up with RAP, Relatives Against Pharma. So 2003, we held the second protest against Purdue Pharma. So RAP, we went to FDA hearing. Some of us went to Purdue Pharma sales reps trials. We did a lot. We went to more congressional hearings. 2007, 20-some people were allowed to give a victim statement at the Purdue Pharma sentencing in Abington, Virginia. This is what the show Dope Sick on Hulu's all about. And most of the people who gave a statement were RAT members. And we gave a statement and we begged the judge to give them jail time. And the judge was apologetic to us. He said he believes jail time's warranted, but he had to go by the sentencing guidelines.
Oh.
And so he wound up giving them a record $634 million fine. The three top executives got community service. They had to pay $34 million. Of course, Purdue paid it for them.
Mm-hmm.
So no jail time. But what the judge did not know, what we did not know, there was a 120-page prosecution memo detailing felony crimes that the brass at the DOJ sat on. This judge never saw this memo detailing their crimes. We had no clue. So, they really thought this record fine would stop or slow down Purdue Pharma and the pharma industry.
Mm-hmm.
Were wrong. It gave them a green light because at the time, Purdue OxyContin was selling $2 billion a year. So what did Purdue do a couple months later? They hired 100 more sales reps. Okay.
Yep.
Sales went from $2 billion a year to $3 billion a year. And as the sales went up, the deaths went up. Okay. So we were besides ourselves when this, and it's in slow motion.
Yeah.
This disaster was no accident. It's in slow motion, and so fast forward. So around 2010, 2011, Purdue Pharma comes out with an abuse resistant OxyContin. Okay, why did they come out with it then? Well, the patent was running out on the original Oxy.
Mm-hmm.
So to be the only company in the country allowed to sell OxyContin, they came out with this. They could have came out with this years earlier. They
True.
waited till the patent ran. And then to add insult to injury, Purdue Pharma testified at an FDA hearing that the original OxyContin was too dangerous of a drug to let generics be sold of it.
Wow.
So you had Purdue spending 12 years saying that there's nothing wrong with OxyContin. It's a great drug. It's the abuser's fault. But then when the patent runs out, they actually started saying what us parents were saying. This drug is too dangerous. And the FDA listened to Purdue Pharma. They stopped generics from being sold, which actually was a good thing, which did save lives. But the goal of them to actually say at a hearing, OxyContin is too dangerous to be sold after lying about it for 12 years.
Wow.
So after that, I was so burnt out. I stopped watching the news. I totally got away from everything. And then 2018, Maura Healey, who is now governor of Massachusetts, at the time she was Attorney General of Massachusetts, she actually sued Purdue Pharma. And not only Purdue Pharma, she sued the Sacklers, who I call the Sackler cartel. There's members of the Sackler family, especially Richard Sackler, who were hands-on owners of Purdue Pharma. So they
It's a
called the
perfect
shot.
name for them.
Right. They were hands-on. I call them the Sackler cartel. So what Maura Healey did, she put her lawsuit online. And anybody can still go look it up. Just look up, Google the Massachusetts Sackler lawsuit. All kinds of evidence was in this lawsuit. I read that and I said, oh my God, they got them.
Mm-hmm.
So I called up a bunch of original rap members. I let them know. Finally, they got them. Well, 2019, I wake up. The headline is Purdue Pharma files for bankruptcy. I was like, finally, after all these years, some justice.
Yeah.
I start reading the headline. I start reading the article, and a couple paragraphs, it says the Sackler family is demanding civil immunity. Otherwise, they are not going to contribute any money. And, it really is a long story. So what happened after 2007? A memo was sent to the Sacklers that, eventually these lawsuits are going to get through. You should think about protecting your money. So from 2008 on, they shipped offshore $13 billion about. So they moved this $13 billion out of Purdue Pharma. They pretty much drained the company of all the money, just about all the money. They left Purdue Pharma with like $1 billion. And then they file bankruptcy and they say, oh, by the way, you got to give not just the Sacklers, every single Sackler, their unborn kids, any company, the list is like 1,000 people and company that they want to get these they're called non-consensual releases. And it's a little technical, but I got to get into it because it'll bring us up to today. So the Sacklers are demanding these non-consensual releases, and they're controversial. Some circuits in the land allow them, other circuits don't. So Purdue Pharma handpicked their bankruptcy judge. Bankruptcy law is so bad, so slanted toward the companies. All they have to do is open a P.O. box
Yep.
in any jurisdiction, and then they file. Everybody knows Purdue Pharma is in Stamford, Connecticut. Well, they filed for bankruptcy in White Plains, New York. So they handpicked their bankruptcy judge, whose name's Robert Drain. So anyway, they filed for bankruptcy. Judge Drain gave them basically everything they wanted. The very first thing he did was the week that they filed for bankruptcy, two Sacklers in separate lawsuits were supposed to be given depositions. What
Yeah.
happens when you give a deposition? Evidence comes out, okay? Which is what we wanted all along. We just need the truth to get out. So Judge Drain, the first thing he does, he stops all these lawsuits, 2,600 plus lawsuits against Purdue, 600 against the Sackler family. He stops all the lawsuits. And so the bankruptcy drags out. You know, the attorney generals, they tried the best they could. But bankruptcy, it is all about money. It's not about justice. It's not about getting the truth out. It's about getting the most money. So after 3 years, all the AGs agreed to give the Sacklers they're called non-consensual third-party releases.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, RAP and many other members are totally against this. And make a long story short, it worked the way through the court. And now on December 4th, it is going to the Supreme Court. Okay, so the Supreme Court hears arguments on December 4th. I think I sent Paula the link.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Quinn, he is a pro bono lawyer. He is a true David fighting Goliath, Purdue Pharma. He wrote a great brief to the Supreme Court dealing a lot of Purdue's crimes and why they don't deserve and third-party releases need to be declared illegal. And even though I'm all about the Sacklers and Purdue Pharma, another reason why the Supreme Court needs to strike this down, if they allow these third-party releases, it means the worst of the worst companies can hide behind bankruptcy and get civil immunity. Okay. It's not criminal immunity, but they really don't worry about that because the DOJ does not prosecute white collar criminals for crimes. When they go after companies, it's all about money. So people probably heard there's $55 billion from companies out there for opioid abatement. Well, all these companies committed crimes. They're all dead. And the DOJ's idea of justice is to give them a fine. And all these companies paid a fraction of the money they made. So I wrote an op-ed for Stat Magazine, and basically that's what it says. Deadly crimes should not just equal fines, especially with Purdue Pharma. I call the Sackler cartel the architects of the opioid epidemic. Since OxyContin launched, there's over 1 million dead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, they all didn't do OxyContin, but a lot of them did. And a lot of them started with Oxy and moved on to heroin. And now we got the fentanyl poisoning overdose crisis. but it wouldn't nearly be as bad today as it is if not for what Purdue Pharma did. Like I said, the show Dope Sick on Hulu, it
Mm-hmm.
lists crimes. There's been 10 books. Painkiller now playing on Netflix. You can watch that. On HBO, there's a great documentary called Crime of the Century. So if you like documentaries, watch Crime of the Century on HBO. It lists their crimes. So this 120-page memo, it was buried by the DOJ brass. It has never been made public. But what is leaked is a 6-page recap of just some of the crimes, felony crimes that the DOJ sat on. So that brings me to 12-4. So 12-4, the Supreme Court's going to hear arguments on these third-party releases. Nan Golden, who, if anybody's ever known anything about OxyContin, they know the name Nan Golden. She's a famous photographer who has protested at the Metropolitan Museum, the Louvre. She has gotten the Sackler name taken down from all these famous museums. She is going to be there 8:30 a.m. outside the Supreme Court, Washington, D.C. I'll be there with her and, a lot of other parents. And these third-party releases, giving them a free pass, just ain't right. And we pray the Supreme Court, and I'm pretty confident the Supreme Court in the end will do the right thing, but we won't know till the spring. But
Sure.
they're going to hear us on 12-4, and we've already talked to reporters, so it's going to be in the press, and that's where we're at.
Good. I mean, Ed, that information is so crucial and so vital to a lot of people that are just kind of getting involved with, with Big Pharma and trying to fight against them. So I really appreciate you have now become. I mean, you are always and will be an advocate, but you're now becoming a professor of this because you're teaching so many people about so many things. It's so important. Similar to what Paula's doing the same thing. But Paula, we started early because we were trying to get this podcast on Ed's page, so we had to go live so he can share it. But Ed, Paula had a question, and I want to kind of Paula, just take control of this for a few minutes and
Sure.
Ask your questions. Go ahead.
Hi, Ed. We finally get to meet. I know last time
Yes.
you just heard my voice. Today you get to see me. So thank you for everything you're doing. And truly you are a warrior and a trailblazer for those of us like myself who are now doing advocacy work, as you know. One of the questions I had for you is because it was brought to my attention when Healy was in court for the actual settlement that we now know of today being the opioid settlement. Wasn't it also William Tong from Connecticut who was with her? Because it was the both of them, correct?
William Tong, yes. So William Tong, he was actually the last attorney general
Standing.
to sign.
Correct. Yes.
Him, he really didn't want to sign on to this deal, but it was him more or less versus 49 other attorney generals. So he reluctantly signed on. But I know Attorney General Tong and other attorney generals, they actually wrote in the settlement that if this got to the Supreme Court, they reserved the right to oppose it. So there's actually, even though they signed the deal, and like I said, bankruptcy is all about money. It's not about criminal charges. And some people were sad Maura Healey eventually signed on. But unfortunately, like I said, bankruptcy is about money. But one of the things Maura Healey did is after she signed on, she went on NPR radio, and there's video and radio of this. And she said, I have seen all the evidence the DOJ has on the Sacklers, and they should criminally prosecute them. And the guy said to Mar Healy, well, why don't you prosecute them? And Mar said, the states are not equipped. This has to be federal prosecution. So after hearing that inspired rap. We have actually done 2 protests outside the DOJ the last 2 years in Washington, D.C. We had hundreds of parents outside the DOJ calling for the DOJ criminal division to step up and prosecute the Sacklers. After our first protest, we actually got a Zoom call with the DOJ. Now they don't comment on active investigations, right. But the fact that they gave us a Zoom call tells you that they are still looking at this, and criminal charges are very much still on the table. There's been a rumor for years that the DOJ is just waiting for this bankruptcy to wrap up, and then they might do something. And I pray that's true. And we're going to find out. Like I said, the decision's going to come down in spring. And no one's sure if the DOJ, if the Supreme Court says these third-party releases are illegal, no one's sure exactly what's going to happen. But if they do say, okay, these releases are allowed, well, then the deal's going to go through. So nothing's easy.
Right.
Ryan Hampton wrote a book called Unsettled, and it's all about the backroom deals and shady stuff that went down. So I mentioned a handpicked judge, Judge Robert Drain. Judge Robert Drain signed off on the deal. A couple months later, he resigned from a federal bankruptcy judge 6 years early. Have you ever heard of a judge resigning 6 years early who was not under investigation on it or indictment?
Yes.
No.
Yes, yes, absolutely, because there's more corruption than what people know. That's when that happens, and we all know that. It's happening now. It's happening now, and you see it with what's going on with fentanyl, with all the deaths that are occurring daily, and how many are being prosecuted and going to prison? Not many. So
right.
yeah. I mean, you know all about corruption. You've been following it for 20 years because that's exactly what this is.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, let me tell you the audience, and you make your own decision. The handpicked judge, Robert Drain, retires 6 years early. Couple months later, he gets hired by a Purdue Pharma law firm. So you got a judge who just sat on a multi-billion-dollar case, retires early, and then goes to work for one of the law firms that was just in his courtroom. Does that sound shady?
Yeah, sure does.
Of course it does. I mean, hey, money talks. I always say every time, follow the money. You follow the money, you're going to know exactly what's going on. Plain and simple.
Yeah. I think the official tally or recorded amount of money that he received, this is official. To me personally, I think he got a whole lot more, but it was up to like 300,000 or more. And I think we're all intelligent to understand and know that wasn't, to resign early, 6 years early. There's attorneys that work for far smaller companies that get paid more than that. And here it is that this turkey ends up going to Big Pharma and ends up, their law firm, associated law firm, and only gets 300,000 and is There's definitely he could have been making that at the federal government level.
Yeah. So I don't know where you got that number, Charlie. I haven't actually seen numbers on drain, but yeah, no one truly knows. But I'll tell you what, he didn't retire as a federal judge for just 300,000. I
Yeah,
guarantee.
I agree. I agree. That was one of the movies that I seen, documentaries. That's where I got that figure from. Can't think of it right now, but
Yeah, you're confusing Judge Drain with Curtis Wright. Curtis
you know
Wright.
what? I apologize. You are right. You are right.
Curtis Wright
You
was
are
that
right.
gay
You
guy.
are right.
Talking about corruption, it
Yeah.
all started when OxyContin was approved.
Hmm.
Curtis Wright approved OxyContin with the magic words "believed to be less abusable."
I seen that.
That
I did
opened
see that.
the door for the Purdue sales force.
Yeah.
Okay. Curtis Wright then quits the FDA and within 9 months directly gets hired by Purdue Pharma.
Hmm.
He gets almost 300 grand a year, but that was triple his FDA salary. And you know, this is years ago. So
Yeah. Yeah. I was getting ready to say that. You know.
300 grand back then's like $1 million
Yeah.
now. So Judge Drain, who knows what he got, but I'll guarantee you it's a lot more than 300,000.
But we
True.
just had that recently, though. Sorry, I'm eating my burger as I'm talking to you guys. I apologize. But
Every can't
Ed,
help hunger, right? Can't
yeah,
help hunger.
Ed, didn't we just have that? We just had someone from the DEA, the number 2 of the DEA, leave.
Well, that's another thing. Okay, so number 2 guy at the DEA, it wasn't Purdue Pharma.
No,
He left the DEA. He went to work for a pharma company.
yeah,
Okay, then the DEA hires him back.
Uh-huh.
Make this stuff up.
So
And
true.
that was publicized, and there was enough outrage where actually he resigned again from the DEA.
yeah.
I guarantee you he's back at that pharma company or a different pharma company. He ain't hurting for nothing. But yeah, so this is called the revolving door. And it is a
Um,
big, huge issue in government. And that's what happened with the SEC. You know, the securities when Wall Street almost crashed. People
excuse
from the SEC quit the
excuse me, Ed, 1 second. Um, Paula, does Phil want to come on?
Is he on?
I see him on the screen. I don't know if you want to come on, Phil?
Yeah, go ahead. You
All
can
right.
ask him. You can put him on.
All right, Ed, you can continue. What's up,
Oh,
Phil?
Ed, that's my husband, Phil.
All right, Phil. So anyway, the revolving door. So you got people in government who oversee companies, who oversee drug companies, who supposed to be watching the Wall Street fat cats, but then they leave and they go to work for triple their salary at the companies they were watching. The system is so corrupt and it needs fixing.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things we were able to do, Janet Woodcock, she's high up at the FDA. So Curtis Wright, she was Curtis Wright's boss when he approved OxyContin. Well, years later, they wanted to make Janet Woodcock the head of the FDA. So we protested against that. A bunch of organizations wrote letters, wrote op-eds, and we were able to stop Janet Woodcock from becoming the FDA here head. So over the years, we have had victories. A lot of people don't know this. A long time ago, Purdue Pharma was selling OxyContin, and we had all these problems with theft and addiction. That wasn't enough for them greedy pigs. They tried to put out a drug called Paladone, which was a time-release Dilaudid. We went to FDA hearings. We helped stop that from happening. Paladone was stronger than OxyContin, and even though we had all these deaths and addiction from Oxy, they wanted to put out a stronger version of OxyContin with a different chemical. And, I am proud to say we were able to stop that, and that saved millions of lives. So this battle for me has been going on since 2001. And here we are in 2023. And we're at the Supreme Court. And, hopefully they do the right thing. But again, this has to do with bankruptcy and money. Has nothing to do with criminal charges, which are warranted. You got Mara Heal. You said, I've seen all the evidence, and the DOJ has enough evidence to prosecute. And that was our message when we protested outside the DOJ. Follow the money, follow the evidence, just do your job. But I do have to give a shout out to DOJ. I always forget the name of the division. It's coming. But anyway, it's the Solicitor General who eventually brought this to the Supreme Court. But the DOJ bankruptcy division, they actually pushed this. They did the right thing. They followed the evidence. They are taking this to the highest court in the land. The criminal division needs to step up and just do what the Solicitor General's doing. Take it as far as you can. You got the evidence. Bring charges. Hey, if the Sacklers' top-notch lawyers beat you in court, so be it. Yeah. At least all the evidence. One of the reasons why Purdue Pharma got away with this is over the years, at first they used to brag, we will never settle lawsuits. Well, guess what? They started to settle thousands of lawsuits. But the one thing that they demanded is all the evidence gets sealed. So over the years, there's been some leaks of evidence. There's an 8-hour deposition of Richard Sackler. That's chock full of evidence. They have no remorse for what they've done. They insist that they have done nothing wrong. There's been congressional hearings. Senators have written to DOJ asking them to prosecute. Congress has asked them to prosecute. And so far, for whatever reason, and, the reason basically is power, influence, and billionaire justice. At one point, Richard Sackler, a memo leaked out. He bragged that he could get any senator in the country on the phone within 24 hours. And, when you say, I got them on the phone, that means you got them.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Actually bragged about that.
First of all, welcome, Phil. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Always a pleasure seeing you. And by the way, I did speak to some people, and whenever you're ready to go in the studio on WNB1 Radio and talk about it in the studio, and actually talk to other men, other parents that have gone through what you went through. I already have the okay on that. So whenever your schedule permits it, let's do that.
All right, bet. Sounds like a...
Yeah. Okay. So Ed, this is it's all these facts are just so amazing. This narrative is extremely amazing. And I'm so glad that, a few weeks ago that Paula had introduced me and actually just said your name to me. And that's the one thing I like about her. She says a name and then I clicks, and then as soon as I have time, I look it up and boom. And everyone that she's actually told me that's advocating for the fight to basically stop all this this danger. You know, I can't say anything other than danger. It's murdering people. You know, I want more and more people to come on here to share their stories. And a lot of people are camera shy, but I mean, there's ways that we can do this. I can have them call in and talk over the phone if they're camera shy. There's so many things. So, um,
Well, I think one of the biggest things. I think one of the biggest things is, and Ed, and Ed and I met on Facebook, and Ed is a dad who lost a child, and now we're the same, Phil and I. And this is where the common denominator is. Ed's been doing this for a long time, but I reference Ed a lot when I speak, even at speaking engagements. And I talk, Ed, I hope your ears are ringing because I talk about you a lot. And I say, you're kind of like my hero between you and Jim Rawl, because you guys are really the forefront of this. And we're just now coming on to the advocacy and the awareness and everything that really goes into this.
So true.
Thank you, Paula. So I just do want to reiterate, anybody can be in Washington, D.C. on December 4th, 8:30 a.m. outside the Supreme Court. We will be there. Nan Golden's going to be there, and some other well-known activists. And they're going to hear us. And we already got one major paper doing a story. And hopefully the right thing's done. But one thing I do got to touch on is not all parents are against this because they listen to the Purdue Pharma lie. Well, it is a lie. So according to the Sacklers of Purdue Pharma, they just want to help people. They want to help get this money out. So the Sacklers are offering $6 billion. Sounds like a lot of money. But what they're not saying is they want to pay $6 billion over 18 years, backloaded. So in the first sentence, they say we need to get this money out as soon as possible. But you read the fine print, as soon as possible, over 18 years, backloaded. So, they talk out both sides of their mouth. Another thing, okay, people, well, if we get this money out, it'll really help. Yeah, no, there's already $55 billion out there. Literally every state right now is sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars. They're trying to figure out how to spend it the best. The problem is all 50 states have 50 different plans, and it sounds like a lot of money, but in the long run, they estimate the opioid epidemic cost this country like $2 trillion per year. So $6 billion over 18 years. You would hope it helps a little. It's not going to change things. And, that's a whole different show on what's the best way, how to spend this money and what we need to do. But I will tell you, just sitting back, I learned a lot over these 22 years. And I believe we need three things. Number one, we need demand reduction. We need supply reduction, and we need harm reduction. We need all three things to get out of this mess. And until people start working together, until the government gets serious, you seen what the government did for COVID? All hands on deck. Well, right now, over 100,000 people a year are dying. And it is mostly fentanyl now, and a lot of it's poisoning. Until they give that the level it deserves, it's just going to get worse and worse. And it took the government 15 plus years to rein in Purdue Pharma. If it takes them 15 years to get on this fentanyl situation, we're going to have 1 million a year dying eventually. You watch. So as more and more people get affected, I think more resources, more things will be, we need to turn the tide. There will always be somebody who dies from overdose. It's just a sad fact of life, but it doesn't have to be over 100,000 a year. It's ridiculous.
I agree. I really do.
Yep.
There's so much different things that are going on in society, but this is one thing that Paula and I talked about on Sunday, how the numbers keep increasing over these deaths, and it's just going, it's just increasing, and but there's no halt on the manufacturing. It just keeps going, whether it's manufactured illegally or legally, it's the production is just non-stop, which is consistent with the deaths that are non-stop. I actually want to really eventually do something come springtime. I really want to have a big forum and actually talk about this on a local level, and sort of bring our own town hall. I see Paula over the past few weeks, past months. She's always, going to other people's town hall, but I want to create our own by invitation and really
No, Charlie, hold on.
Yep.
Not to interrupt, but no, the town halls that are being done are actually hosted by Achieve Greatness. So
Okay, all right.
Achieve Greatness is hosting them with the partnership of the health department. And then the last one we just did, it was the health department and PACA. So we have been doing town halls, as you know, and we also are going to be doing a forum, as you just stated, with a couple of congressmen and senators who are sponsoring it.
Okay, shame on me. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I know you don't listen to me anyway. That's okay.
I took the advice of Phil and stopped listening to you. Only joke.
Problem with fentanyl, Charlie, is that fentanyl in a medical environment, there is right. So all this stuff is synthetic. It's all people making it in the
Keep cutting out, Phil.
Honey, your mic on your phone.
It's probably a wireless. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because I'm wireless, probably. Can you hear me all right?
Now it's better. Yep.
Okay. So the problem is these things, the fentanyl is regulated in the medical industry. It's not on the street. So the people that make it on the street, they're just putting it together. They don't know what the dose is. They don't know anything. They're just going and putting it together so they can have it as an add-on to whatever drugs that they're, they used to cut, Coke with baby powder and all this other crap. Now they're cutting it with fentanyl because they can mass produce it and it's cheap and it's highly addictive. So if I can, I don't care about my customer base if I'm a piece of crap, and I don't care about life. And so the whole point is if I can have repeat customers and if I lose some along the way, I'm okay with it. It's all right, because having this phone and having social media gives them access to millions of people. And, like when we were younger, the street dealer would do it on the corner and, they had their own little system. Now, man, they're dropping this shit off Uber or Lyft. It's not the same. And the other is wiped out a generation of children, 12 to 18 now. What's 14 to 18? Now it's number one, 12 to 18. So what's that tell you?
So it's getting to more and more masses. It's getting it's becoming an overflow where it's reaching many ages, and it's going to go in different directions. It's going to go from the younger to the older.
But people don't want to talk about it, Charlie. It's the same thing. We try to get into schools. Paula's tried to get into schools. Like she went to Voc. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it because I had a sinus infection. It was on antibiotics, so it wouldn't be a good thing for me to be there. However, Voc knew we were coming. They never advertised. They never told the kids about it. you know?
Yeah.
And Paula says, I don't understand why. And I said, well, I understand why. I said, because you're going to have those parents who are going to be combative and don't want anybody to talk to their children about this. And yet those
Exactly.
same parents probably have friends or somebody they know that's been impacted. I can tell you that most of the people that I know, and I know a lot of people, you know this,
Mm-hmm.
have been impacted by fentanyl.
Wow.
That includes people I work with.
Yeah, exactly.
They've lost somebody or somebody's overdosed. Man, I had a 22-year-old girl where I work. She had gotten hurt, and you know what I do for a living. So she was in my office. We were talking, and I said, you know, I told her about Andrew, and she goes, in 2018, when she was in high school, she had marijuana that was laced with fentanyl.
Hmm.
And she was in the hospital for 3 months
Wow.
because it was so bad. It had such a massive impact on her that they didn't think she was going to make it. And here we are losing our son to this, and people have the audacity to say, well, that's not true. It's not possible. And
Yeah.
now, so the problem is people are in denial. They don't want to talk about it. Different ethnicities, which I'm talking specifically about ours, Charlie,
Yeah.
they
Yep.
don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to be embarrassed because their kid, you know, passed away. And you know, the other word which
Mm-hmm.
talked about is overdose. It's not an overdose if somebody gives you something without your knowledge. It's
Yeah.
not an overdose if you turn your back and I drop something into your water and you die. It's murder.
Yes.
It's poisoning. Yep. So
Yeah.
there was one case, okay, you had pre-med students. I believe it was in Ohio. They actually bought some Adderall for a medical exam.
Hmm.
Well, it wasn't Adderall, it was fentanyl. So
Yep,
Wow.
that's straight up poisoning. And
absolutely.
I believe the people did get prosecuted in that case, but we know most cases don't get prosecuted. And law
No,
enforcement step up, and the press needs to catch on. Only
that.
are saying poisoning.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know, overdoses. Every life's precious. My son taking OxyContin, he didn't know what the hell it really was. So technically, I say my son overdosed on OxyContin. But if my son thought he was taking OxyContin and someone gave him pure fentanyl, damn right, I'm saying my son was poisoned.
Yes.
So you know, unfortunately, these kids they can't mess around today, and
Uh,
it's just
That's
so.
that's what we preach, man. We say that every time we talk to children and we talk to kids 5, 6, 7, 8. And it doesn't matter because it's out there. And when those numbers, when you start to see the fatality numbers dropping, where it went, you know, in 1 year, it's from 14 years of age to 12. So that tells you that there's a younger population dying from this, and it's nobody's talking about it. And that's one of the
Yeah.
things when Paul and I went to the state house, we talked to them and they said, well, what do you want to check? You know, what is it you're looking for? I said, well, for none of you to have to pick up a child is the first thing. And the second is the narrative, because I was one of those people, Ed. I was one of those people when I heard the word overdose, and I've talked to Paul, talked to people, and very transparent, that I looked at it and was like very dismissive because I was like, oh, that person, you know, they had a problem. They should have done it. They didn't have to control it. They made a choice. Every excuse to
Yeah.
validate their life. I'm not like
The,
that now, but I was like that. So if I'm
Honey,
like that,
you
honey, we can't hear you. You
it
got to
keeps
come
going in
closer.
and out.
Yes.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry about that. But I'm just
Nope.
saying, if I'm like that, you know, when I was very negative about overdoses and very dismissive, and now I am not, because if I'm supposedly open minded and yet that was a stigma with me, I can only imagine how other people are. And that's a concern because the narrative really shouldn't be overdoses. The narrative is poisoning.
Yes.
Either way, it's still a loss of life. And I'm no longer dismissive of that. I care about everybody, and I understand that certain things happen and addictions happen. You know, that oxy thing, man, that's the most heinous act in our history. It really
Yeah.
is.
So true. The I try to tell everybody, over the years that you never know why someone got addicted on something. It could be as easy as something just going to the doctors and taking something that ends up staying with you. There's nothing you can do. You need it. And there's so much everyone wants to say, well, you have to go here, you have to go there, go to rehab, do all that. It's not that easy sometimes for some people. And there is a taboo factor, where I don't want to seek out help. I'm a highly professional person. I don't want to do that. I can get over this. And so I just I treat addiction very very delicate. I have strong empathy for anyone that is going through something. It means a lot to me, because I have lost so many people in my life due to some form of addiction. But Paula, what I want you to do is want you to close up the podcast in any way you see fit. It's about an hour right now. I have some other duties I have to do within about 20 minutes. So I want to make sure that I let the queen of this podcast tell it like it is.
Well, thank you, Ed, for coming back on. We greatly appreciate your time, especially before tomorrow being Thanksgiving. And thank you for everything you do, because you truly are a warrior in this battle. One of the things I say constantly is this is no longer a war on drugs. This is now a battle to save lives. And you started that 20 years ago and you continue that. So thank you for that and for
Thank
being a champion of this.
Amen.
Thank you.
And for Charlie, thank you for always allowing us to do this and to get the word out, because it's kind of like what Ed just said, and you and Phil, we have to continue talking about this because, the media is not, the news are not. So we have to do it. We have to come together and continue to do what we're doing, just as Ed has for 20 years. And I'm sure sometimes, Ed, just as I do, I get tired, but we can't stop the fight because we're our children's voices, Phil and I and you. We are now our children's voices, and to make sure that other parents don't ever go through what we're going through.
So true.
Yep.
I really want to thank everybody, that is here, everyone that's viewing this podcast from Facebook to YouTube on the Really Charlie channel, also on Spotify. I really, really appreciate everyone coming on board, listening. But the one thing you can do is share this information. So share it on your social media, and don't forget, add WNB1 radio to your devices, whether it's Apple or Android, and join us. Some hip hop music. I play some R&B music on Tuesdays, 6 to 9, and also have some podcasts. So, but Phil, the open invitation is for you to come in studio, whether it's you and a friend, you and a couple other gentlemen you want to talk to. We definitely can. We have enough space that we can do that. And Ed Bish, please, stay strong, stay committed to what you're doing, because you are definitely inspiring many, many people. And good luck on December 4th. I don't think I can make it, but I just definitely want to share any information you have on that day.
Okay, yep. December 4th, 8:30 a.m., right outside the Supreme Court. So hopefully I see some people there. I know we got about 100 committed already, and, they're going to hear us.
Awesome.
All right. Stay safe out there, Ed.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Definitely.
I'm on my work myself.
All right. All right, y'all. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy that turkey, ham, sweet potato pie, all of it. Enjoy it. And
stop, Charlie, getting hungry.
You and me both. So God bless y'all. And I'm going to close
See you
this
next week.
podcast. Yes,
Thank
see you
you.
next week. And I'm going to close the podcast with my favorite song. All right, Phil, take care, man.
You too, brother. God bless.
All right. God bless. All right. Let's see here. Michael Daniels, I see you, man. I see you down there. Hey, don't be swimming off that island out there, man. It's too cold. The water's too cold. Michael, please continue to support the Really Charlie podcast. I appreciate you, man. Let's see. All right, we are going to end with my favorite song by Peter Lionel Walker, who is a star now. He showcased himself in a play downtown New Bedford, and I appreciate him. But here we go. Have a good night, y'all. Happy Thanksgiving.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass.